The gods created the first woman as a punishment. They made her beautiful, charming, and curious. They gave her a sealed jar and told her never to open it. Then they sent her to live with humans, knowing exactly what would happen next. She opened it. Out came every form of suffering that had never existed before. Disease, death, hard labor, envy, spite, grief. Only one thing remained trapped inside when she slammed the lid shut: hope. This is the story of Pandora's box, and it is about whether hope staying inside the jar was a mercy or the final cruelty. The myth is preserved in Hesiod's works and days. Composed around 700 BCE, Hesiod was a farmer poet who wrote about work, justice, and the hard realities of human life. Pandora appears as the explanation for why humans must suffer. Before her, humans lived without sickness, without backbreaking labor, without death. After Pandora, all of that changed. The gods designed her to punish humanity for receiving Prometheus's stolen fire. What makes this myth uncomfortable is how gendered the punishment is. The first woman is created as a trap. She is not a person with agency. She is a weapon Zeus deploys against men. Every quality she has was given to her by the gods for a specific purpose. Pandora herself is not evil. She is a tool. And the story has been used for thousands of years to justify the idea that women bring suffering into the world. If you're following the complete Greek mythology series, subscribe to Snap Old Myths and hit the bell. Like this video if you want more. And let's get into the jar that should never have been opened. The story begins with Prometheus stealing fire from the gods and giving it to humanity. Zeus was furious. Taking fire away had been his punishment for an earlier trick. Prometheus gave it back anyway. Zeus needed a new punishment, one that would affect all of humanity. He decided to create woman. Before Pandora, humans were apparently all male, living in a kind of golden age, free from suffering, aging slowly, dying peacefully. They did not have to work hard. The earth provided. There was no sickness. This paradise existed because women did not. That is what Hesiod actually says. He calls woman the source of all human misery. Zeus ordered Hephaestus to create the first woman from clay and water. Hephaestus shaped her in the image of the goddesses. Then each god gave her a gift. Aphrodite gave her grace. Athena taught her weaving. Hermes gave her a deceitful mind and persuasive speech. Her name, Pandora, means all gifted. Every gift was also a curse. She was designed to be irresistible and dangerous. Zeus gave Pandora a sealed jar and told her never to open it. Then he sent her to Epimetheus, Prometheus's brother, as a bride. Prometheus had warned Epimetheus, accept no gifts from Zeus. But Epimetheus, whose name means afterthought, did not think ahead. He saw a beautiful woman and said yes immediately. Pandora came to live with Epimetheus, bringing the jar. Ancient sources differ on how long she resisted opening it. But the jar was designed to be opened. Zeus knew it would be. He had placed curiosity in her nature specifically, so she would eventually lift the lid. The trap was not just the jar. The trap was Pandora herself. When Pandora opened the jar, every form of suffering that had not existed came pouring out. Disease, old age, hard labor, pain, envy, spite, revenge, madness. All the afflictions that make human life difficult spread across the earth instantly. Pandora tried to close it, but everything had escaped except one thing. Hope remained inside. And this is where the story gets complicated. What does it mean that hope stayed inside? The ancient Greeks themselves debated this. One interpretation, hope staying inside, is a mercy. Humans suffer terrible afflictions, but they have hope to endure them. Without hope, suffering would be unbearable. But another interpretation is darker. If the jar contained only evils, and hope was inside the jar, then hope is also an evil. Hope keeps humans going through suffering they should not endure. Hope prevents them from giving up. from finding release. In this reading, hope is the worst torture because it keeps you alive to suffer more. Hesiod does not resolve this. He simply says hope remained in the jar. The ambiguity is intentional. The Greeks understood that hope could be both blessing and curse. It depends on whether you are hoping for something achievable or something that will never come. The story is Zeus's revenge on humanity for receiving Prometheus's fire. Prometheus gave humans the tools to build civilization. Zeus's response was to give them woman, and with her, all the reasons civilization would be painful. Men gained the ability to shape the world. In exchange, they received suffering, mortality, and the need to work. This is where the myth becomes unbearable to read in the modern era. Hesiod calls women a beautiful evil, a plague, a curse on men. He says men who avoid marriage die alone and poor, and men who marry spend their lives in misery. Either way, men lose. Women exist only as punishment. But there is another way to read the story. Pandora opens the jar because she is curious. Curiosity is what drives knowledge, exploration, discovery. The same impulse that makes Pandora open the jar makes humans want to understand the world. Zeus forbids her because he does not want humans to know what is inside. In that reading, Pandora is not a villain. She is the first human to defy divine authority for knowledge. That reading is not what Hesiod intended, but later writers have done it with the myth. Pandora becomes a figure of defiance, the person who reveals uncomfortable truths. She opens the jar and releases suffering, but she reveals that suffering was always there, waiting. The gods created it and sealed it up. Pandora did not create disease or death. She only released what the gods had already made. The mistranslation of Pythos to box happened in the 16th century when Erasmus confused Pandora's jar with Psyche's box from a different myth. The error stuck. A Pythos was a large storage jar, big enough to hold a person, used for grain, wine, or oil. The image of a small decorative box is wrong, but it is what most people know. The myth exists in a broader context of Greek creation stories. Hesiod tells multiple versions of how humans came to be. Pandora appears in the version where humanity exists but does not yet suffer. Her arrival marks the transition from the Golden Age to the Age of Iron, where humans must work, sicken, age, and die. Later writers reinterpreted Pandora. Some made her sympathetic. Some emphasized her role as the mother of the human race. Some turned her into a tragic figure, cursed with curiosity she could not control. But Hesiod's original version is not sympathetic. It is a story about why life is hard, and the answer is because women exist. The Church Fathers saw Pandora as a parallel to Eve. Both are the first women. Both disobey a divine command. Both bring suffering into the world. Both are blamed for the fall of humanity. The parallel reinforced the idea that women are inherently dangerous and deceptive. Renaissance writers tried to rehabilitate Pandora. They emphasized curiosity as noble. They framed opening the jar as revealing hidden truths. They made hope the central theme. Pandora became a symbol of human resilience. This version is more optimistic than Hesiod's, but less honest about what the original actually says. The question of hope has been debated for over 2,000 years. Philosophers, poets, and theologians have weighed in. Some say hope makes suffering bearable. Some say hope is false comfort that prolongs suffering. Some say hope trapped in the jar means humans do not actually have it. The ambiguity is the point. Modern feminist reinterpretations focus on reclaiming Pandora as a figure of agency. She opens the jar because she chooses to. She reveals what the gods wanted hidden. She is not a passive victim or thoughtless fool. She is someone who acts, who takes risks, who defies authority. But even in feminist reinterpretations, the structure is hard to escape. Pandora is created by male gods for the purpose of punishing men. She has no origin independent of male power. The gods put curiosity in her nature and then punish her for being curious. She is a trap that springs itself. Pandora's box has become shorthand for any action with irreversible consequences. Nuclear weapons, genetic engineering, artificial intelligence. Every new technology gets called a Pandora's box. The myth works as a metaphor, even when people do not remember the original misogyny. The hope remaining in the jar endures because people want to believe that no matter how bad things get, hope survives. That message is comforting. It is also what makes the darker interpretation devastating. If hope is the final evil, then the comfort people take is exactly the trap Zeus set. Hesiod wrote this as part of a poem about work and justice, explaining why life is hard, why humans have to labor for food, why we get sick, why we grow old, why we die. The answer: Zeus punished us. First for Prometheus's trick, then for receiving stolen fire. The punishments are permanent. The other thing Hesiod makes clear is that suffering is not random. It is intentional. The gods created disease, old age, and death. They sealed it in a jar. They gave the jar to Pandora, knowing she would open it. They designed her to be curious. The trap was set from the beginning. Later myths tried to soften this. They added stories where humans are redeemed, where heroes save people, where the gods show mercy. But Pandora's box is from the earliest layer of Greek mythology. It is raw. It blames women. It says life is hard because the gods made it hard, and there is nothing you can do except endure. Modern retellings almost always focus on hope. They end with the message that even though Pandora released terrible things, at least humans have hope. That framing makes the story bearable. But that is not what Hesiod wrote. Hesiod wrote that hope is also in the jar with all the other evils, and it did not escape. The story teaches us that the origins of suffering are not human. The gods created it, humans just released it. We are not responsible for the existence of pain, but we are responsible for its presence in our lives. We did not design the trap, but we sprung it. Second, it teaches that curiosity has consequences. Pandora opened the jar because she wanted to know what was inside. That desire for knowledge is what makes us human. It is also what causes our problems. Every advance comes with a cost. Fire warms us and burns us. Technology liberates us and enslaves us. Third, it teaches that hope is complicated. It is not simply good. It keeps us alive when we should give up. It traps us in situations we should escape. It comforts us and torments us. Whether hope remaining in the jar is mercy or curse depends on what you are hoping for. The myth also teaches us to be suspicious of gifts from people who have power over us. Zeus gave Pandora to Epimetheus as a gift. Epimetheus accepted because she was beautiful. The gift was a trap. The gods knew it. Prometheus warned about it. Epimetheus ignored the warning. Pandora opened the jar and released suffering into the world. She did not create that suffering. She did not choose to be made. She did not choose her nature. She was built to fail, and she failed exactly as designed. The gods are responsible, but she is blamed. 2,000 years of interpretation have turned Pandora's box into a story about hope. That is not what Hesiod wrote. He wrote a story about why women exist and why life is painful, and the answer to both is that the gods hate us. The jar was full of evils. Pandora released them. Hope stayed inside, either as mercy or final torment. The myth is one of the most misogynistic in the Greek tradition. It explains human suffering by blaming women. It treats the first woman as a curse inflicted on men. And it does all this while framing itself as cosmology, as if the existence of women and the existence of suffering are the same fact. Yet the myth endures because the image of opening a box and releasing something terrible is universally resonant. We all understand unleashing something you cannot put back. Pandora's box has become shorthand for irreversible consequences. She opened the jar because she was curious. That curiosity is what makes us human. It is also what causes our problems. We gain knowledge. We pay the cost. Both are permanent. That is what the myth teaches. This video was created by combining human research and script writing with AI-assisted visual production, bringing these ancient stories to life for modern audiences. For more Greek mythology, related books, and the AI tools we use to make this content, check the links in the description below.